I wanted giant screen TV.
But I didn't want a giant screen taking over my living room.
Look what Zenith built.
By remote control, the screen rises from the fine furniture cabinet. Zenith presents Space Screen 45, more than 3 times the area of a 25-inch screen, yet the picture is sharper than ever before in home projection TV. And only Zenith has the screen that disappears.
So I get my living room back.
So let's talk a little bit about cycling diet. Let's get the feels out there. I mean, I think everybody struggles with food and eating to a certain extent, good, bad, or otherwise. But when you're trying to lose weight, one of the hardest things to do is to find food that worked for me, or understand how food played a part in, the activities I was doing. So when you do the research, it makes a big difference. So I've had a go at food and exercise a number of times, but as I've been talking about in this last training plan, this block of 3 weeks, I combined a program of food as opposed to just a dabbling of figuring things out. One, I learned a lot, and two, there was a big benefit to the activity. So it's important to remember that when you're doing, high intensity work, that you're also understanding the types of food you need. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the different things that I've been eating. I'm going to list it out, give you my tips and tricks for how I got through it based on the different types of activities, just almost as a cheat sheet to get through what it is you need to do when you're trying to get fit cycling.
This particular vlog that I'm going to be working on next, which is going to be now, is going to be about diet. And one of the things with diet, for me was about getting the right combination of foods that help me cycle and get the right energy when I'm cycling. I've been talking about this particular Eating to Suffer program, which was by the company SufferFest. Are they a company? I don't know. They must be a company. The SufferFest. And what they provided was an eating routine that complemented the suffering videos that they prescribed in this 3-week climbing plan that I did. I've yet to do the full review of the climbing plan, which I will do, but this is the food review. So brace yourselves, because it's going to be longer than my previous posts. I've been getting them down to about 3-4 minutes. This will be longer as it is a review. Are you ready? So the food plan. The food plan consists of a number of items. So it starts with a banana smoothie, which is milk, banana, and honey. And then you have the ride where you're drinking either water, depending on what you're up to, or you're drinking an energy drink of some sort. I use Endura. And then you're getting into breakfast, which is always poached eggs and toast, 3 poached eggs and 3 pieces of toast, which I did 2, or you're eating a cereal of some sort. I eat my oats and fruit mix. Then you're getting into the snack in the morning, post in between lunch and breakfast, which is I always went with an apple. Then you have lunch, which is a sandwich or 2. And then you have an afternoon snack, which is either another banana smoothie or tuna and Criscuits. Then you get to dinner, which is always some sort of meat and vegetables or a pasta in there as a substitute, or maybe a potato. Or I did brown rice as well. But it's always a staple of meat, of beef, chicken, or salmon is what we picked. And then I was going with broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, peas, and rice, and that was about it. Oh, maybe corn was in there. I also did pasta nights, also did pizza nights, also did junk food, also did beer. So I didn't limit myself too much, but I stuck with the program to push the exercise out in the right way. And then in the evenings, you always had, after dinner, you always had yogurt and fruit, but sometimes swap that out for ice cream with chocolate and maybe a cookie, because I'm a sucker for that sort of stuff. So that's sort of the food plan, the food diet. If you had an intense day on the bike, it was normally the smoothie and the eggs and, the protein side of it. But if it was a lighter day, it was more the carb side of the diet. Maybe you swapped the breakfast around and you swapped the sort of evening snack around. But for the most part, it was always about complementing the carb side or the protein side, depending on what you were getting up to. Long times in the saddle gave you a bit more food while you're out and riding. Less time in the saddle was just maybe down even just to only having water in the saddle. You know, all in all, it was all about giving you the right energy to burn when you were pushing the efforts. So if I was doing a time trial day, which was a shorter amount of effort, it was focused more around getting myself some protein and something to burn for the ride, but then focusing more on some carb intake post. Whereas if I was doing a real high intense, longer threshold, anything above an hour, it was more around the protein throughout the whole of the day, with less carbs involved. I certainly noticed a massive difference in that I became sort of dependent on a banana smoothie. Because it gave me the energy I wanted when I was out in the saddle, and I also actually drank like less fluids. I didn't need the same amount of fluids, although I still liked having fluids on me, and I certainly felt as though I had more juice throughout the entirety of the ride. For the days that were just, you know, sort of longer times in the saddle, but, you know, moderate intensity, you know, again, the food made a big difference. But I do want to talk about one thing, which is sort of the 24-hour window of food. I was weighing myself throughout this entire thing, getting a different sort of check-in moment, looking for body fat loss, as well as general weight loss as a result of the cycling. Look, I didn't lose a lot of weight as such, but what I did see was body fat percentage go down, no weight gained as a result of eating more food than I was normally used to, and the weight somewhat, you know, depreciating along with it. So I mean, what the check-in was really about, you know, understanding if a volume of food would make a wholesale impact on my system, and it didn't. What I was doing was burning through it. Riding 6 days a week will do that, putting anywhere between 200 to 260 kilometers in, and clocking in anywhere between 6 to 8 hours in the saddle will definitely give you some burn. So that's the food diet. My hard and fast rules around it were, and I'm still working with it now, were just to look at the intensity of the ride and plan the food accordingly. That seemingly was the best way to deal with it. So yeah, that's sort of the vlog here today, is to walk through it. From a cycling perspective, it's casual time for me. I'm just kind of resting up before I jump into the sprint challenge. We'll get ready for that in probably maybe next week. Maybe not, school holidays. I'm not sure when I'll kick it off. But the weather's good, so I'll get out there and get on the bike on the road and, you know, just have some fun out on the streets, riding around. So yeah, that's the food side of it. I hope you enjoyed the food extravaganza. If you're interested in asking me questions about, you know, what I did or why I chose what I did, or, you know, sort of substitutes or any sort of options in there, please ask in the comments below. I'm more than happy to answer questions about, you know, how I combated the food or give more insight than what I did in the vlog about it. It is obviously, I guess, owned by SufferFest, so I would encourage you to, you know, buy a plan, because I got it, the eating part of this for free as part of the plan. It was like an add-in, and I skipped it the first time, but I was really happy I used it the second time. I feel like I got a lot more out of the plan as a result of eating properly and servicing the engine in the right way. So the links for all that stuff are in the description down below. Also, thanks for everybody who's been subscribing. I hope that the content's been enjoyable, a bit of a lull, but hope to get back into it. I'm talking about my cycling and the fitness and what I do.
Getting fit cycling. The beard looks clean today. Man, I shaved it down, and then it was scraggly as, and I didn't have scissors at the what was the engagement party. Felt like a lunatic.